Now that God is dead, how can we quickly dispose of his remains?
God is not dead now. He has been dead always. So the question of disposing his remains does not arise. God has never existed. And cannot exist for the simple reason that the whole existence is godliness. To divide God and existence, Creator and the creation, is a stupid duality. One has to see the implications of it. God creating a world from where? Something must have existed as a building material before God created the world. And if He can create the world like a magician, then He is an idiotic magician. One can see the world as a proof. This is the world a wise man will create. Nothing to say of a wise God. This world shows absolutely that there is nobody behind it consciously creating it. Otherwise, all nonsense that exists should not be there. God created the world at a certain time, at a certain date. According to Christians, who are the most foolish out of all religions, He created the world 404 years before Jesus was born. It must have been 1st January, Monday, or perhaps 1st April. That seems to be more appropriate. And what He created? In 3,000 years, 5,000 wars have been fought. And this is the creation of God. And the highest creation, man. and the whole humanity is on the verge of committing a global suicide. This God must be some kind of a sadist. It is better that we simply forget all about God. In the course, the Bible is presented to take oath upon it. It is full of lies. In these 2000 years after Jesus, almost everything in Bible has become a lie. What about Charles Darwin? What about Albert Einstein? Sometimes I wonder that have we lost all intelligence? It will be better to provide Albert Einstein's book, to take an oath on it. The Bible is so full of obscenity. It is an insult of every court to have a Bible inside it. It is a contempt of court. And wonder of wonders, you have to take the oath that you will speak only the truth. Jesus is born out of a virgin girl. I cannot take any oath on such rubbish. If a virgin girl can give birth to Jesus, then everything is right. Then there is no lie anywhere in the world. All is truth. You cannot lie. It is impossible in the very nature of things. The Old Testament says God created the world. He created 2 daughters and made love to both of them. Now the father making love of his own daughters, and this is a religious book, and this is your God. Hang him if you can find him. And this is not only so about Christianity, more or less, it is the same about all religions. No sane person can believe in God. Only insane, retarded, utterly mediocre people can believe in a God. I have not found a single reason or argument given by thousands of priests of all the religions, which has any validity, still God continues to be worshipped. You have made it out of your foolishness, and you are worshipping Him, praying Him. This is not the way to change the world or man or his consciousness. So please don't say that now that God is dead. He has never been in the first place to be dead. I agree on many points on that madman Friedrich Nietzsche, but I don't agree on this point that God is dead. Not that God is not dead. He has never been anywhere. Only existence is. Yes, it has a possibility of evolving to consciousness higher and higher. The moment consciousness comes to its highest peak, it does not find any God there. It finds immense beauty. Immense silence. Absolute nothingness. This is, I am saying, on my own authority and on my own experience. You cannot go beyond absolute peace, silence, ecstasy. It goes on growing, but you never can go beyond it. Hence, my religion is a godless religion. There is no question of, no problem of disposing the remains. There are none.
Being with you, I feel so blissful and liberated, and there seems to be no end to it. You must have tricked me. What is your secret?
I am a simple man without any secret. I am just an open book, and a book in which nothing is written. If you like to call it a secret, it is your choice. But it is a very open secret. If you want to be, learn the art of being not to be. Let me repeat it. Because I know you are deaf. If you want really to be, the only way is to learn not to be. Disappear. Just as God disappears from existence, you have to disappear from your life. Let life flow on its own account. It is the simplest art in the world to be silent. It is not a doing, it is a non-doing. How it can be difficult. I am showing you the way of enlightenment through laziness. Nothing has to be done to attain it, because it is your nature. You have already got it. Just you are so busy without business. That you cannot see your own nature. Deep within you is exactly the same as it is outside you. The beauty, the silence, the ecstasy, the blissfulness. But please, sometimes be kind to yourself. Just sit down and don't do anything. Either physically or mentally. Relax. Not in an American way. Because I have seen so many American books titled How to Relax. The very title says that the man knows nothing about relaxation. There is no how. Yes, it is okay how to repair a car. You will have to do something. But there is no doing as such as far as relaxation is concerned. Just don't do anything. I know you will feel a little difficult in the beginning. That is not because relaxation is difficult. It is because you have become addicted to doing something. that addiction will take a little time to disappear. Just be and watch. Being is not doing, and watching is also not doing. You sit silently doing nothing, witnessing whatsoever is happening. Thoughts will be moving in your mind. Your body may be feeling some tension somewhere. You may have a migraine. Just be a witness. Don't be identified with it. Watch. Be a watcher on the hills, and everything else is happening in the valley. It is a neck, not an art. Meditation is not a science, it is not an art, it is a neck. Just that way. All that you need is a little patience. The old habits will continue. The thoughts will go on rushing. And your mind is always in a rush hour. The traffic is always jammed. Your body is not accustomed to sit silently. You will be tossing and turning. Nothing to be worried, just watch that the body is tossing and turning, that the mind is whirling, is full of thoughts, consistent, inconsistent, useless, fantasies, dreams. You remain in the center just watching. All the religions of the world have taught people to do something. Stop the process of thought. Force the body into a still posture. That's what yoga does. A long practice of forcing the body to be still. But a forced body is not still. And all prayers, concentrations, contemplations of all the religions do the same with the mind. Force. Don't allow the thoughts to move. Yes, you have the capacity to do it. And if you persist, you may be able to stop the thought process. But this is not the real thing. It is absolutely fake. When stillness comes on its own, when silence descends without your effort, when you watch thoughts and a moment comes that thoughts start disappearing and silence starts happening, that is beautiful. The thoughts stop on their own accord if you don't identify. If you remain a witness and you don't say, this is my thought, you don't say, this is bad, this is good, this should not be there, and this should be there, you are not a watcher. You have prejudices. You have certain attitudes. A watcher has no prejudice. He has no judgment. He simply sees like a mirror. When something you bring in front of a mirror, it reflects. Simply reflects. There is no judgment that the man is ugly, that the man is beautiful, that, what a good nose you have got. The mirror has nothing to say. Its nature is to mirror, it mirrors. This is what I call meditation. You simply mirror everything, within or without. And I guarantee you, I can guarantee because it has happened to me and to many of my people. Just seeing patiently, maybe few days will pass, maybe few months, maybe few years. There is no way of saying, because each individual has different collection. You must have seen people collecting antiques. Postal stamps. Everybody has a collection different. The quantity may be different, hence the time will be different. But go on remaining a witness as much as you can. And this meditation needs no special time. You can wash the floor and remain silently watching yourself washing the floor. I can move my hands either unconsciously without watching, or I can move it with full awareness. And there is a qualitative difference. When you move it unconsciously, it is mechanical. When you move it with consciousness, there is grace. Even in the hand, which is part of your body, you will feel silence, coolness. What to say about the mind? Watching and watching slowly. The rush of thoughts starts getting lesser and lesser. Moments of silence start appearing. A thought comes, and then there is silence before another thought appears. These gaps will give you the first glimpse of meditation and the first joy that you are arriving home. Soon the gaps will be bigger. And finally, the gap is always with you. You may be doing something, the silence is there. You may not be doing anything, the silence is there. Even in sleep, the silence is there. For a meditator, there are no dreams. Dreams and thoughts are cousin brothers. There is not much difference. If thoughts disappear, dreams disappear. And if you are 24 hours, you are surrounded by silence, you will come to know what is my secret. If you go near a lake, you start feeling cool. There is no secret in it. The milieu. You go to the forest and you feel the difference in the atmosphere. You are the same, but the atmosphere around you is different. When you come to me closer, and to come closer to me, you are not to walk and sit by my side. To come closer to me is to be not a Christian, not a Hindu, not a Mohammedan, not a Buddhist, not a communist, To come close to me means you don't cling to any ideology. You don't go on holding the past. To come close to me means you start living moment to moment. Neither the past means anything to you, nor you are worried about the future. This very moment becomes the only reality. In fact, it is the only reality. And if you can be in this moment, you can be on a far away star. You will be close to me. And you will feel a serenity, a silence, a lovingness, which you have never known. I am not doing anything, remember, so don't be grateful to me. I am a non-doer. I am just being available. That is not much of a doing. I am available as the trees in the forest and the lakes and the ocean and the sun and the moon. I am available. Now it is up to you to come close to me or go away from me. If you can come close to me, you will start feeling things that have been unknown to you. And soon you will realize that what you are feeling close to me, you can feel yourself wherever you are. That is the greatest moment for a master to be happy, when his disciple can be on his own. You must know the meaning of being a disciple. People have forgotten. It comes from discipline. And all the religions have corrupted the meaning of discipline. Its root meaning is learning. Coming close is learning. What I have got, you have got. I am aware of it, you are not aware of it. Coming close to me, you will learn that my God, this has always been with me. And I have been searching all over the world. Looking into the books, scriptures, seeking the teachers, becoming members of rotten cults like Christianity, Hinduism, Mohammedanism, all dead. Yes, when Buddha was there, What is happening to you was happening to his people. But when Buddha is gone, what is left behind are mere words, containers, but the content is not there. You can go on decorating the containers, but that will not help. You know perfectly well that your statues in the temples, your scriptures in the churches are just dust of the past. It is better to be finished with them. But why you are seeking? You are seeking because you are not aware that you have got it already. I cannot give you. I can only make you aware. And for that, nothing is needed but availability on my part, availability on your part. If these two availabilities are there, two opennesses, without any conditions, it clicks. Suddenly, you become a mirror. And the moment you become a mirror, you have become a master. The same will start happening around you. So I don't want you to remain always disciples. That will be a shame. In the past, all the religions have tried just the opposite, what I am doing. That's why they cannot believe that this is a religion. I am changing the very definition and the foundations. Those old religions were trying that Jesus Christ is the only begotten Son of God. You are not. He is special. You are ordinary. He comes with a message from God, from above. He has a speciality. He is extraordinary. At the most, you can be Christians, but you cannot be a Christ. Have you thought about it? That in 2000 years, nobody has been a Christ again. What kind of religion is this? Just Christians. The first and the last Christ was crucified 2000 years before. Since then, Nothing has happened. Because unless you become a Christ, your Christianity is just a hypocrisy. The same is true about other religions. Once it happened in Baghdad. Khalif Umar was the sovereign. A man was brought to him who was claiming that he has been sent by God. He brings the latest denomination, the latest message, because Muhammad is $1,300 old, and in 1,300 years a new message, better, more polished, more sophisticated, is needed. I have been sent by God. Now, Mohammedans cannot accept anybody after Muhammad as a prophet. No religion accepts anybody else as a prophet. Christians cannot accept anybody as a Christ. Buddhists cannot accept another as a Buddha. Why? Why this similarity? There is some arithmetic behind it. A new prophet will disturb the gullible, the old believers, because he will say something new. He may say something against the Quran, the Bible, the Gita. He is bound to say. I cannot agree with Krishna. The Gita that he had spoken was spoken 5,000 years before. 5,000 years has not gone just as a waste. Man's consciousness has risen. Intelligence has become more solid. And what Krishna teaches is violence. If Krishna is right, then Third World War is perfectly okay. I cannot give that okay to Third World War. Krishna says it is God's will. If he wants the war, all your pacifists can go on parading in the capitals of the world with posters against war. It will not change anything. If God wants the war is going to happen. That is the message of Gita. And Arjuna, Krishna's chief disciple and friend, tried hard to argue, but those arguments are all ordinary. If I was in his place, just a single sentence from me would have been enough. There was no need to make such a big book. I would have said to Krishna that this is God's will that I am going to the Himalayas. Who you are to interpret the God's will, and how I can accept it that your interpretation is right. You say God wants the war, I say no. And in fact, the no seems to be more rational, more loving, more meaningful, more humane. Rather than arguing with that man, Arjuna had just to see that I have accepted your idea, that whatsoever happens, happens according to God, and should have left towards the Himalayas. He wanted to be a sannyasin, a meditator into the Himalayas. Krishna could not have been able to stop him just because of his own arguments. Arjuna would have said, if war is to happen, God will bring me back. But you keep quiet. Hence, Hindus would not like anybody else to be accepted as a prophet of God. Muhammad married 9 women. Now, I cannot support it. Because in the world, men and women are almost in the equal proportions. If one man marries 9 women, then what about the 8 men who will be left without women? Then California will be all over the world. That catastrophe I cannot allow. I would rather love that California goes down into the ocean with all its homosexuals, with all its perverted. It will be better, far more beneficial and a blessing to the humanity. But Muhammad marries 9 women. Of course, he is a messenger of God. For Mohammedans, he allows to marry 4 women. Naturally, he has to keep himself higher. Mohammedans are still marrying 4 women. Nobody of any intelligence can see the point. These are the people who will create prostitution. They have created prostitutes. Because what about the 3 men whose women they have married? And can you understand a simple biological thing? Even you cannot satisfy a single woman sexually. What about 4 or 9? Because recent research shows it that a woman is capable of multiple orgasms. A man is not capable of that. If he is young, below 35, he may be able to have 1 orgasm. And I am saying maybe. It is not certain. Because man is in such a hurry that before the orgasm can happen, he is finished. Orgasm needs a certain patience to move with the woman with the same pace. The woman moves slowly. By the time she comes to her orgasm's time, the man has gone to sleep and is snoring. 80% women in the world have not known what orgasm is. And in a country like India, 99% women know nothing about orgasm. A man cannot biologically satisfy 4 women. Then those women are going to look around in the neighborhood. These religions have created all kinds of perversions, prostitution, obscenity. And if these people cannot find women, at least they can look at the playboy. Just naked pictures of women. One feels the world has lived in an insane way. Will your hunger be satisfied by seeing beautiful dishes in a picture? Can you eat them? But that is what is happening to man's sexuality. He looks into magazines, vulgar, obscene, naked women. For what? When there are equally women are available, living alive, not just a photograph. Four women to one man. But this is nothing. 4 or 9. Krishna had 16,000 women to him. I sometimes start wondering, "16,000 women, even to remember their names is difficult." I know because I have sannyasins, more than 500,000 around the world. I cannot remember their names. And Krishna lived only 90 years. In 90 years, how he managed to make love to 16,000 women? Perhaps one woman once in a life. And then she's abandoned. This is ugly. That's why new prophets are not allowed by any religion. Because they will look, scrutinize, see that these things are ugly. In Baghdad, this man declared that I am the prophet of God, the latest, and I bring more sophisticated message than Muhammad. Mohammedans cannot tolerate it. Umar himself was a very cultured man. But you may be cultured. Your Mohammedanism is there, which goes on poisoning you. He sent the man to the prison, told the guards that don't give him food, bind him with a pole, beat him continuously, don't let him sleep, and after 7 days I will come to ask what he thinks. After 7 days he came, the man was almost dying, without food, without sleep, and continuously being beaten 24 hours. Umar laughed and said, "Now, have you changed your mind, or do you think you are still the last messenger of God?" The man laughed loudly than Umar and said, "This torture for 7 days proves that I am the prophet of God, because when I was leaving him, taking my voyage to the earth, I had asked him that they had not behaved well with prophets in the past. What is going to happen to me? He said, "You will be tortured. You have proved that I am really the prophet of God. Before this torture, sometimes I used to doubt that perhaps I am imagining. But now there is no question of doubt." At that very moment, from another pole, another naked man who was there for 1 month continuously being tortured, shouted, Umar, don't listen to that idiot. I have not sent him. After Muhammad, I have not sent anybody else. 1 month before, he was caught declaring himself God. These religions are just dead history. They cannot give you anything. Only a living master is capable of creating an atmosphere I call the Buddha field, the field for awakening. And I have chosen Oregon because I could not find so many sleepy people anywhere else in the world. Otherwise, who has ever heard of any prophet in Oregon? I thought this is unjust. Even a small place like Judea can claim Jesus. Jerusalem can claim Moses. Small places like Mecca and Medina can proclaim Muhammad. Oregon is absolutely important. I thought it will be good hence I am here. But to wake up a sleepy man is always a difficult job. The sleepy man does not want to wake up. Sleep helps him to forget all the worries of life, troubles of life. Sleep is a narcotic. It is a drug. Naturally provided by biology. Otherwise, you will all go mad. 6-8 hours of sleep helps you to keep on dragging your life towards the grave. Naturally, Oregonians are disturbed. We are celebrating here, and what they are doing, they are collecting National Guard vehicles in Madras as if this is an army and we are going to attack and start the Third World War. We believe in love, we believe in silence, we believe that man can live in coexistence with nature, with other people. This is the only city which has no crime, but it has been declared by the Attorney General of Oregon to be illegal. This is how sleepy people behave. In their sleep, the only legal city looks illegal to them. We have no crime, no prostitutes, no stealing, no drugs. This is our fault. To be peaceful, to be silent, just to be happy, they cannot tolerate. They cannot believe. Because it has never happened in their life. Poor people. I really feel sorry for them. This place is creating a new man. But naturally, the old minds will create every difficulty, will use every means so that the new man is not born. Why? It hurts. Seeing a man dancing, singing, enjoying, peaceful with himself and existence, hurts those people who have become accustomed to live in misery. Who have become accustomed to live a life which is not living at all. They cannot tolerate you. I have heard about a woman who was ugly. Really ugly. She used to break mirrors. Wherever she will find a mirror, she will break it immediately. People asked, "Are you mad? Why you break mirrors?" She said, "These mirrors make me ugly. Now you will be becoming mirrors amongst sleepy people. You will disturb their sleep. They are going to destroy you." And remember, you are very few. They are many. But one thing is positively in your favor, that you have something. You have a contentment. They are empty. Just kick the empty boxes as hard as you can. Perhaps they may wake up and thank you for it.
Why are only intelligent people able to realize true religion? Does the mediocre mind make it impossible to come to know oneself?
Religion is the highest luxury in the world. The idiot cannot realize it by remaining idiot. The mediocre cannot even conceive its possibility remaining a mediocre. Only the highest intelligence can reach to that point where religion flowers. Religion needs courage, intelligence, daring, because you are going higher and higher in the world of consciousness. The mediocre has no idea that there is anything higher than himself. The only possibility for the mediocre is that he can drop his mediocrity. Nobody is born mediocre. People are made mediocre by the politicians, by the priests, by the education system. You think you go to the school to be made more intelligent, you are wrong. You go to the college, you go to the university, you have a master's degree, you can have a PhD, you can become a D.Lit. D.Lit means now the society has recognized that doors for evolution of your consciousness are completely closed. Now for you there is no way. The whole educational system is arranged in such a way that it teaches you, trains you for memory, not for intelligence. And these two things are totally different. A very intelligent man may not have a very good memory. In fact, to have a good memory means you are mediocre. A good memory simply proves you are only a computer, not even a man. So what has been fed into you, you can repeat it. You can see it very easily. The people who top the universities, come first class first, receive golden medals, where they all disappear in the world. Their gold medals don't shine in the world. In the world, you will not be able to recognize them. Educational systems train you for a good memory, so you can repeat absolutely useless things. When Genghis Khan was born, now what purpose it serves? In fact, if he was not born, it would have been better. At least we can do one thing, we can remove him from our memory. He was a nightmare. When the Second World War began, this is history. You have to memorize it. And when you memorize history, Genghis Khan, Nadir Shah, Alexander the Great, Napoleon Bonaparte, Joseph Stalin, Adolf Hitler, and other idiots, which maybe in the history are right now making history, soon will be part in the history. It is better to forget these people. It is better that there has been no Second World War. That is the only way to prevent the Third World War. Forget all this nonsense that man has been doing to man. But the whole educational system is to make you memorize. And man's mind is capable to memorize without any limit. It has been found that it is possible because in a man's small skull, there are millions of cells which memorize. It is just like tape recording. All the books in all the libraries of the world can be memorized by a single person. That much capacity your memory has. But then you got lost in your memory. You forget what intelligence is. Intelligence is totally different. Intelligence is the capacity to be silent, to be awake, to be able to see the truth. But nobody is interested in truth. In fact, they are all against it. Because what will happen to all these politicians around the world who are constantly lying, if truth is known, they will go down the drain. You are fed up with lies, and you are distracted from intelligence towards memory. Memory is part of your brain. And you live your whole life in the brain. That's why I say only intelligent people can be religious. Just by being a Christian, going every Sunday to the church, listening to the same boring sermon, no argument, because argument brings intelligence in. Every religion expects you to believe. The unbeliever is condemned, and without doubt you cannot increase your intelligence. This is the trouble. All the religions are helping you to remain mediocre, stupid, by emphasizing belief. Believe in God. Believe in virgin birth of Jesus Christ. Believe, because those who believe will attain to paradise. They are giving you good awards. Just believe. Just the other day, I came to know that in New York, the anti-abortionists were having a conference that abortion should be no more legal. It should become a crime. All the religions of the world agree on such points. It is very strange. They don't agree on any theological points, but on these points Hindus agree, Mohammedans agree, Christians agree, Jews agree, everybody agrees abortion is a sin. Mother Teresa was in the conference speaking against abortion, and she said, in the world there is violence because of abortion. I could not believe. If somebody had said in the world the violence is because of too much population, that would have sounded truer. But this old woman is given a Nobel Prize. For what? Everything she does is against humanity. What arguments she placed before the conference? Why abortion creates violence in the world? Because abortion means you are killing a living body. So you are making people killers of their own children. If they can kill their own living children, that opens the door to violence. The argument looks good. But it only looks good. At what point the child is alive? If abortion creates violence, then at what point child is alive? At the time when the male and female living cells meet, is that the point of life? It has to be. Because otherwise, from where life will come? But if it is life, that means when the living cells were male and female, the female eggs were in a woman's body and the male cells were in a man's body. Were they alive or not? Celibacy kills more than anything else. Because if a nun, a celibate nun, who is not going to produce a child at all, then all those living cells that she brings from his mother's womb, in a woman's body, cells don't grow. She brings them from the birth. All those eggs waiting to be alive, waiting to be Ronald Reagan, they die without any chance. And do you know a man, a single man, produces in his whole life, after 14 up to 50, so many living cells that a single man can populate the whole world. What to say about a celibate monk? Every single monk is killing millions of people. From where the violence begins? And if anybody is impossible, anybody is responsible, then it is Mother Teresa, the Pope, their God. Why he goes on and on producing eggs and living genes? It is time to stop. Already the world is 4 times more populated than it should be. If the world population can be reduced to 1/4, there will be no poverty, no violence. Thousands of problems will disappear. But Mother Teresa is giving a Nobel Prize because she helps orphans, opens orphanages around the world. She is creating problems. These orphans will create children. And she is against abortion because if abortion is legal, from where she is going to get the orphans? And what about the Nobel Prize? This senile woman is driving people crazy. Absolute birth control is needed at least for 2 decades. Absolute, I say. Not that you have to stop after 2 children or 3 children. No, that will not help. Half the world is dying with starvation. And you will be surprised to know the poor countries, starving countries produce more children. For the simple reason because they don't have any other means of passing their time. To go to the movies, money is needed. To go to a disco, money is needed. Sex is the only free entertainment. Absolute birth control is needed. This is the only city where no child is born in 4 years. Unless we cut the world population, there is no way to avoid violence. People are hungry. People are starving, dying. When somebody is hungry, he is going to steal. When somebody is dying, what does he care if he kills somebody else and gets money to survive? Because lust for life is the basis of all biological growth. A man can do anything to survive. And secondly, if abortion becomes illegal, Pope would like to make all birth control methods illegal. Abortion is illegal, birth control methods are illegal. Can you think what will happen to this world? Everybody will be at everybody else's neck just to survive. And it has to be remembered that birth control, abortion have given women the same status as men, equality. Otherwise, the woman can never be equal to man. In poor countries, she is continuously giving birth. Every year a child. She is always pregnant. She cannot work, she cannot be financially independent. She cannot get as much educated as men. She cannot be in politics. She has to take care of the children. Birth control methods, abortion, these have made possibilities for women to be equal to men. Otherwise, all talk about equality is bogus, false, pseudo. But it's strange, Mother Teresa is a woman. And she had there 2-3 dozen nuns who are all women. She has an order of nuns. They don't even see that not a single woman has been accepted as a pope in these 2000 years. Not a single woman has been accepted a Christ, a Buddha, a prophet. No. If a woman manages somehow to get into religious matters, she is called a witch. The word is not bad. Christians have given it a bad connotation. Literally, the word witch means a wise woman. But when you call a woman witch, you don't mean that she is wise. These popes has been declaring women witches. Not only declaring, they have been burning alive women. In thousands, the whole Middle Ages they were burning witches. Who were these witches? What they were doing? They were interfering into religious matters. And man would not like any woman to enter into the hierarchy of religion. Otherwise, she may become a prophet, she may become a pope, she may declare herself a Christ. In Hinduism, women are not allowed to read scriptures. In fact, there is no time for them. Taking care of the house, taking care of the children, and they are continuously pregnant. This is what Mother Teresa wants. This is what your popes, your bishops want. They will create a mediocre world. They want a mediocre world, just on the survival level. Remember one simple scientific truth, that if a plant does not get enough water, enough food, enough air, then the first thing to disappear will be the flowers. They are the most delicate. Higher a thing is, it is more delicate. It is more fragile. Then the leaves will start disappearing. Then the branches will start disappearing. At the last, there will be only roots, underground. The same is the situation in every dimension. If you don't allow man comfort, luxury, time, he will never reach to higher peaks. You are, on the contrary, prevented to reach towards religion. The first thing is belief. That is against religion. I say to you, doubt everything unless you discover something which you cannot doubt. I don't say believe. I say find out something which even if you want, you cannot doubt. It is there, a reality, a truth. Go on doubting. Doubt is the method of a true religion, just as it is a method of a true science. By doubting, you eliminate all that is wrong, and finally only that which is true remains in your hand. Try to doubt it too, but you cannot, it is there. And when truth is known, not believed, lived, not believed, then only you understand what religion is. All these religions are anti-religious. The religions that exist in the world are all anti-religious. My effort is to create the first religion in the world. All these people have been preventing religion to happen. Hence, they are all against me. You will be surprised. It has never happened before. All religions are against me. They have never been against anybody altogether. On this point, they are in agreement. And even more surprising, atheists are against me. They too agree with the theists on this point. Communists are against me. They don't believe in God. They don't believe in soul. They don't believe in meditation. They are also in agreement with people who believe in God, who believe in soul, who believe in all kinds of things. Only one point, one single point. They are all agreed. This has never happened. For the simple reason, because I am clearly giving you the indication, my fingers are pointing towards the truth. Belief is not needed. Scriptures are not needed. Prophets are not needed. God is not needed. A tremendous courage to doubt everything is needed. It is your doubting capacity which will sharpen your intelligence, destroy your mediocrity. But remember, with your mediocrity, many other things will be destroyed which depend on mediocrity. So beware. I am a dangerous man. If you want to be intelligent, you cannot be in the politics. Politics needs idiots. People who can lie. People who can go on lying. People who have double faces. People who can change their personality any moment. They don't have any individuality. If you want to be intelligent, you cannot be in any politics. If you want to be really religious, you cannot be a member of any religious cult. You have to be free. You have to be individual. You have to be on your own. It will be fearful in the beginning because you have always lived in the crowd. The crowd gives you a certain coziness, warmth. You will be in the cold, alone. If you are ready to be alone and in the cold and ready to go in darkness in search of light, it is yours.